We are here at SOC 42 in Parsippany, New Jersey, and we have an incredibly special car here today. This is Nick, who is the owner of this 2006 95, which at first glance looks very unassuming, and that is the point because this car actually set the Cannonball world record from coast to coast to coast. So Nick, do you mind telling us a little bit about, for those who don't know what Cannonball is, because this is an incredibly special achievement, what is Cannonball and what made you decide to attempt something like this?
Absolutely. So as long as people have been able to cross the country one way or the other, people have always asked, how fast can it be done, right? It's kind of part of that American spirit. And so starting in the 1970s, there actually was an organized race called the Cannonball Run, or the Cannonball Baker Sea to Shining Sea Memorial Trophy Dash, where people tried to see how fast they could actually do this. And that continued through the 70s. In the 80s, there was a little bit different run as well called the US Express. And ever since then, people have wanted to see who could do it the fastest. And this is something that I learned about as a kid. My dad was a big car guy. He always told me about the runs in the 70s and the 80s, and I thought someday I wanted to do it.
So with that great explanation of what the Cannonball is, Nick, how many times have you done the Cannonball Run, and how many times have you done it in this car?
I've done 6 runs so far. This car has done 3, and that includes 2 attempts at the coast to coast to coast world record, which in October of 2024, we actually set with this car at 61 hours and 59 minutes.
This is incredible. I mean, for those who don't understand, any car can do this. This is not like a Saab thing. This is not a Swedish thing. Any car can do this, and to do it in a Saab 95 is just so cool. And you actually had held the record previously too, correct?
That's correct. So in 2022, we took this car out and we did set the record. It was 65 hours, 28 minutes. We did get beat by 9 minutes about a week later. And so ever since then, I knew I had to get out and get the record back.
And to shave almost, what, 3.5 hours off that time?
Yeah.
That's incredible. So if you guys want to hear more about the specific story of the Cannonball Run, VinWiki, as you can see from his hat, he's been on VinWiki. He is super famous as a result, which is really cool. But he's been on VinWiki, and so I'll link VinWiki's video in the top corner. Him and his crew, he doesn't do this by himself, talk about kind of, you know, the journey itself, issues they overcame in different states and road closures, etc., weather. So it's an incredible story. I recommend going to watch that. But in this video specifically, since we're all Saab enthusiasts, I want to talk about the car and the work that he's done to this car to prepare it for a Cannonball Run, because you can't just take the average Saab 95. I mean, you could, but there's a lot of upgrades that have been done. So do you mind if we start talking about that? Can you kind of give us, I guess, just a basic rundown of the car, what year it is, if you've done any work to the engine, and then I know most of the stuff is done in here. But before you do that real quick, I think I want to ask you why you chose a 9.5 over any other car.
That's a great question, because you're right. It's open to any vehicle, and you see all sorts of crazy cars trying to attempt this. Most recently, a lot of people have really swayed towards like a German sedan, a German super sedan or something like that.
An Autobahn runner, like
exactly. Exactly. I think one of the great things about a Saab that people just don't realize is you have so much of that power and so much of that refinement, but to get it in a Saab, you have much better fuel economy with that 4-cylinder, and with the turbo, you can still get up to speed. It's a really great platform, and it really flies under the radar.
Yeah, so that's one important aspect of the Cannonball Run, right? Is you're going above 55 miles an hour, we'll say, correct?
Just a little bit, yeah.
So in order to do that, you know, you have either state troopers or you have people that are calling you in saying, look at this guy driving way too fast, like you guys need to catch him. And so part of your preparation, right, is making sure the car is not easily identifiable. So what have you kind of done to ensure that this car is not, oh, he's driving a red Mercedes down, you know, I-40 at, you know, 120 miles an hour, you guys need to get him. So what have you done to kind of make this car more understated? And that might be part of the reason why you chose a Saab too, is people don't, especially a Dame, it's a lot less common. It's what have you done cosmetically to the car to kind of hide it from the general public who might not know what it is?
Absolutely, right. And that's one of the great things about a Saab is, as enthusiasts, we can pick them out a mile away, but the general public just doesn't really know what the car is. So with the Dame, one of the cool things is it has very non-specific taillights, and you would think originally a Dame, well, that's very specific, but if you cover some of that with like silver vinyl, Now all of a sudden, it looks pretty nondescript. It's difficult to tell what it is. You can tell, obviously, we debadged the car wherever we could, covered up the Saab logos in silver vinyl. The center caps are also done. One of the things in the front, one of the features that people love about a Dame is that chrome around the headlights and the grille. That got covered as well.
So you're even trying to hide from Saab enthusiasts almost.
Exactly, exactly. You made a great point. One of the things you don't want to have happen is have people call you in. And when people call you in, something very nondescript like this, we picked silver specifically because it's a very common car, very common color, I should say. So it's something where you get called in a couple times and you hear, it's a silver sedan come across the police scanner.
There's a million silver sedans driving down the interstate, right? So,
exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. So that's some of the work you've done on the, well, I shouldn't say some of the work, that's some of what you've done on the exterior to help hide it. But if you start looking a little bit closer, you can see there's a lot of little things hidden in here. So what are some of the other things you have done on the outside before we head inside to talk about the cockpit and everything that's been done there?
Absolutely. One of the important things that you have to do is you have to be proactive on your end, looking out for not only police, but just anything that could be slowing you down, right? Safety issues on the road and things like that. So we do have a number of countermeasures built into the car, inside and out. On the outside of the car, you see we've got a laser jammer system. It's got these 3 heads, front and rear, and that helps block if police are using laser versus radar to help look for speeders. Another thing we have is this thermal camera in the front, and that picks up heat signatures along the road. So if you have animals like in the shoulder that are going to cross the road, something like that, that's important to be keeping an eye out for.
Yeah.
And of course, if there are police idling in a median with their lights off looking for speeders, their
you can
exhaust
see that engine and exhaust.
Up. Exactly.
Okay.
We've got some light bars in here as well, which help with seeing further, especially when you're at speed. And those are hidden in the front grille to be a little less conspicuous. There's also some strobe lights built in there. And the strobe lights help kind of get people out of the way when they're sitting in the left lane.
Yeah, that is one. And I don't want to talk too much about the run, but
yeah.
Did you have to deal with left lane campers quite often, and how do you overcome that?
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
Just driving on the interstate at a normal speed, they get on your nerves, right? But when you're 3,000 miles deep into a coast to coast to coast run and you just got some guy not paying attention, what are you just flashing the strobe lights and hoping they move over, or what do you have? Do you have to get creative sometimes?
Sometimes you get creative. Yeah, it's mostly just a combination of using the strobes or using the light bars. Using the horn politely or assertively when you need to. We have a CB radio in the car, so if it's a trucker, sometimes you can communicate with the trucker and try to ask them to finish a pass and get out of the way.
So let's head inside, because you did this run both times with 3 people, correct?
That's correct.
So you obviously had your driver, your passenger, and one guy's not going to drive 62 hours because that's just not humanly possible. So each of you kind of has an assigned duty, or one of you sleeping or doing something. Again, they talk a lot more about that in the VinWiki and some of the other content creators that he's been on. But when you just sit in the interior of this car, the cockpit itself, I should say, the driver's seat, for the most part is pretty standard. But it's when you get over here, what is all of this right here? And I'm actually going to hop in the back seat so people can get a he's got a bunch of stuff in the back seat too. We'll touch on that in a minute. I'm gonna hop over to the driver's seat, and if you don't mind just telling us a little bit about what you have up front here. One thing I forgot to ask you is, mechanically, is the car bone stock? I saw you had an open SID done on the dash, which is very important, but are there any tunes or exhaust? Is it just a standard 9.5?
The car definitely has some work done to it. One of the nice things about this platform is they're actually pretty easy to work on and pretty easy to build up. So we do have an overbore on the car. It's close to about a 2.5 at this point. They came stock 2.3, so a little bit more displacement on there, obviously gives more power. It has a special turbo on it, bigger downpipe, bigger fuel injectors and those sorts of things, but largely just using that base platform that the 9.5 had.
That's fantastic. So with that in mind, what are we looking at here? We've got switches, dials, gauges everywhere. So what is all this stuff?
These are all the different things that we use to help keep ourselves safe, help make sure that we're being safe on the road, but also obviously to try to get across the country as fast as we can. So I have this master switch panel here, and when we turn that on, we have these different 6 different switches. So I've got switches for our light bars, for our strobe lights, the different power accessories all throughout the car, the laser jammer system. This powers the thermal camera in the front. And this switch actually is for a fuel transfer pump.
Because this car has multiple fuel tanks, does it not?
It does. So Stock, these came with a 18.9 gallon fuel tank. We have a 32-gallon fuel tank in the trunk, so that gives us an onboard capacity of just over 50 gallons.
Wow.
So at Cannonball speed, we budgeted for a range of about 600 miles.
Wow, that's incredible. So you've got that, and then you have your timer, just your old school analog timer here, just to keep track of where you're at, just to have the time up at all times. And I think it's so cool that he has kept it on that world record time, just as a constant reminder every time you drive this thing, as if the rest of this in here is not already an indication. But I see you've just got the aftermarket radio. And where are you seeing like your thermal camera and all that stuff? Is that on these screens right here?
Yep, absolutely. So the thermal camera is run into this. So this system I bought specifically because it has 2 camera inputs. So I've got a backup camera, and then also the thermal camera goes on there. And then we've got the tablet up here. This was running one of our apps that we were using to watch out for police and construction and things like that. And then we've got a couple other phones in here that we were using to run some of the other apps that we were using. We had 2 radar detectors in the front. We also had one mounted in the rear. Sometimes those will interact with each other, so you have to actually really be very careful with how you dial in the placement of where those are.
Interesting. Just a lot of refinement that you'll learn of having done 6 runs and been an enthusiast of this event for your whole life, essentially. So this, you just kind of get a feeling sitting in the driver's seat here that if you didn't have a co-pilot, there's no way you can be reaching over here messing with this. So I'm sure during the race, or the event, we should say, you're communicating with your co-pilot, or just making sure, hey, can we get a look at the thermal camera or whatever, doing that just the whole way around. And then you've got your fuel gauge, because I assume this one might no longer be accurate with
well, so this one is for the tank in the trunk, and then the one on the dash still works for the tank in the car.
Okay.
So that allows you to monitor both tanks individually.
Oh, gotcha. Awesome. Wow. So let's take a look at that fuel tank, because I'm kind of curious to see what the, just a quick look at the back seat, just a little more work done back here. Lots of cables run everywhere for all the, but it's all nicely done, right? It's not like you get in this car and you feel like you can't sit in it for an extended period of time, because of course you still got to be in it for 2.5 days, right? So it's amazing to see that you've done all this work, but you've just hidden everything so well to where it's not like you got to get in the car and then step over wires and cables. I mean, he's even got a whole host of like phone chargers that are just kind of tucked into the A-pillar there. It's just so incredibly well done. I don't mean to go on a tangent there, but let's take a look at this fuel tank and anything else that you might have in the trunk. Okay, so you've got the full-size spare, just easy access to, hopefully you don't have to use it, but
Yep.
Okay.
Some people need it from time to time. We were fortunate we didn't need it on this run.
Awesome. And yeah, wow. I see that fuel tank. That is quite large back in there. And I see you've got some tools and just extra oil and fluid. So you're prepared. God forbid you do need anything. So that's awesome.
Absolutely.
It's just, I think, an incredible testament to being able to take this car, you know, just to drive a car 62 hours straight at any speed is impressive. But to drive this car, how many miles is it total?
It's about 5,600, just over 5,600 miles.
5,600 miles in about 62 hours. I'll let you do the math on what that works out to. That includes your stops too, which of course are minimized. And this car is just so cool. I saw it in Sturgis. I didn't get a chance to talk to you then, but I really appreciate Nick taking the time to show off this incredible car. And like I said, VinWiki talks much more about the drive itself, and it's just such an incredible story just to hear about it, and just to see it done in a Saab is just so cool. So Nick's Instagram, I'll put on the screen right here if you guys want to give him a follow. He, like I said, has been doing this his whole life pretty much. So he said he's actually doing another run next week in a 74 Chevelle. So it's kind of cool to see the complete polar opposites almost of cars that are doing these events. But thank you so much to Nick for his time. He has been so gracious to show off just an incredible achievement. Like, you know, people have really cool cars here, but no other car in this parking lot has done anything like this. So that's just really cool, and I just want to thank you so much. And with that being said, I think that's all we have for today's video. We'll see you all in the next one.
Take it easy.